And we're live.
Hello, all.
Good evening.
Welcome. It is Monday night, Generational Change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter.
And we are not in Cleveland.
Yet.
We
are going to explain to you what's going on.
In Cleveland.
We'll explain what's going on. We will be there tomorrow morning.
Better late than never.
Better late than never. Let us know what you think of our new camera. And let us know how lovely Lou looks on camera, because she's always so concerned about her beauty.
She is very lucky.
So very, very lucky. Okay. So for those of you who are curious as to why we are not in Cleveland at this moment, even though we should be.
We should have been in Cleveland last night.
We should have been in Cleveland last night. So for those of you who may or may not be aware, Spirit Airlines is going through some type of a crisis right now. Now, our understanding is that there is a pilot strike going on, and they're just not officially announcing it to the public. We were stuck at Fort Lauderdale Airport for 7 hours, couldn't get any type of response, couldn't get customer service, couldn't get anything.
Flight was supposed to be at 6:39, then delayed to 8:30, then delayed to 9:30, and then at 10 after 11, and we were still sitting there, and the sign still said 9:30. They didn't cancel it, but the bottom line is they were saying that they didn't have the requisite number of flight attendants, and they couldn't get a flight attendant to cover that didn't have too many hours of them. I don't know what their song and dance was, but apparently flight attendants were able to go to places like Austin and New Orleans because those flights seem to have flight attendants. So our flight ultimately got canceled. We got our money back.
This Spirited Airlines.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you.
Never again.
2,500 flights over the course of, I believe, 24 to 48 hours were canceled all over the country.
And you know what, though? I mean, look, they gave us our money back. That wasn't a hassle. But quite honestly.
Correct.
This was ridiculous. I mean, it was so absurd. So, yeah, I'll never do that again. Lesson learned. I mean, I've had not the best experiences with them before, but they are the only direct flight. There were no other direct flights. So I'm like, okay, whatever. It's a direct flight to Cleveland. It's not like I'm flying, international. I'm just whatever. No. So there were also no flights available today, hence why we're still here. So we will be leaving tomorrow morning, and we are staying until Thursday because Peter needs to go see the Christmas Story house.
That is definitely a destination that I would like to see. And I also think we'll probably go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Never been there.
I'm
sure that would be a very, well, obviously it would certainly, Michael, you hit it right on the head. 1,000%.
Okay. So now this is the best anecdote to that, Michael. You will appreciate this. I swear to you, this happened. He came up and I told him this happened. So while I'm standing in line at I don't know, at this point it's after 11:30, waiting to get my refund from the gate counter, this woman comes, everyone's all upset. I actually felt bad for the people behind the gate, but this woman comes up and she says, this is all because of communism and Biden and communism. And I looked at her and I said, actually what you're seeing is complete predatory capitalism at its finest.
Absolutely.
I'm like, if we had communism, we wouldn't be having this problem. And some other guy pipes in with, we'd have much more limited options. I'm like, that's probably true, but we wouldn't be having this particular problem.
Yeah, you gotta, well, again, this whole thing is like, oh, it's communism. No, that's actually not.
And that Joe Biden, I'm like, look, lady, from your mouth to God's ears, I wish Joe Biden was a communist.
Guys, for everybody who's watching right now, we've got 42 people watching. Hit that like button. Let's get this out to as many people as we can.
If you're not.
And please let us know what you think of the new camera. We were very fortunate. We were able to get a nice upgrade.
And it didn't fall off a truck.
Nope. We had a great price. And it was no reason not to. I mean, we were making some upgrades to the system.
My husband made us an offer. So yes, we got a good camera upgrade. So that was really great.
By the way, apparently I could also do Mickey Mouse.
All right. No, don't.
That's great. We're going to Ohio. We're going to help out Nina Turner.
I can't. So we have a few things though today. We ended up we weren't sure what we were going to do because we were planning on being in.
Great to hear, Josh.
So we were planning on being in Cleveland and just sort of seeing where things took us yesterday and doing our show from there. But we kind of pulled it together. We have a good guest coming on. We'll be speaking to Walker Bragman. He's a journalist.
Great journalist.
He's a great journalist. He's going to be coming on, and we'll be talking with him about a few key issues that he wanted to talk about. So that'll be really interesting, I think.
Yep.
One of the things we're going to be talking about is the redistricting and what's going to happen in Florida with redistricting, but other places too. And what else? We were also going to talk
Well, we were also going to talk about
taking over the party.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be discussed, because I know that there's obviously a very heavy movement right now at this moment to build a third party. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's the direction that you want to go in, you absolutely should go in the direction that you should. But crapping on the people who want to fight within the Democratic Party doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
But there's also a major flaw in the philosophy of, we'll say, the two people who are basically the loudest ones in the room in regards to move with the movement for the People's Party. You know, we love Paula Jean. There's a lot of great people that are in that movement. Zaina Day, worked with her at Brand New Congress. There are a lot of great people who are fighting for this. But remember, there is a fatal flaw in this idea that they think that they really understand that they've gone to every length possible to try to take over the Democratic Party and hit the Stonewall. That's actually not true.
They actually haven't, because if they did, then they would all be precinct captains.
That is one part of the equation. And what you have to remember is that the Tea Party did successfully take over the Republican Party. And that doesn't mean that that's a good thing, but a grassroots effort.
No, but effective. They were effective.
Scott Walker, Ted Cruz, there's a lot of them in or at least was, in very high positions of power. But the reason they were able to do that is because they built the infrastructure.
Right.
All of these representatives that have been elected, the best of the best, Cori Bush, AOC, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib,
right,
Ro Khanna. We could go on and on about who the best representatives we have right now who are non-corporate are. Even some, Katie Porter is the best. And Nina Turner would be the best. Sorry, Katie, but rules are rules.
And so we have to go.
But the point is,
we have to go.
But the point is this. You don't have any infrastructure on the ground.
No.
People haven't taken over the city commissions or the county commissions. They haven't taken their. How many people are precinct committee captains?
That's what I'm saying. So you can't say that the party doesn't work when you haven't at least tried to come at it from the ground up. And I'm not saying that I think it does work. I'm not. But I'm not also the one that's out there basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying that we need to just do a whole
and on top of everything else, listen, there's a lot of things that you can criticize a lot of representatives for, but for goodness sake, attacking Cori Bush, at what point do you just kind of lose the argument? And that doesn't mean that, yeah, and you can have disagreements on strategy and what you think the best direction is, but to throw Cori Bush out with the bathwater, I mean, talk about somebody who really has lived the struggle as hard as anybody.
I think really the problem is, we'll talk more about this when Walker's on, but I think the biggest problem I have is that while people might recognize,
Camera.
No, I was though.
No, I'm saying that your angle is good.
Oh, okay. Why people might recognize the need for both an inside and an outside strategy. The problem is that the people on the outside criticize the method in which the people on the inside are working, when arguably they're two totally different strategies.
And Robin, you bring up a great point, because we advocate for the inside-outside strategy.
Oh, absolutely.
Any option that's on the table.
And we participate in both.
And West Virginia is a great state to try to have a third party because of Joe Manchin, and they have open primaries in West Virginia.
That also changes the narrative.
So
we don't have that here.
We don't. And so without question, the options in the state of Florida are much more limited than it is in other states.
Yeah.
So I'm always advocating for people who are, especially in South Florida or throughout the state. I understand if you're not enthralled with the Democratic Party, but if you get involved in the way that we're advocating for, which is not about the sexy positions, not about running for Congress.
Try this first, since this is sort of what we're stuck
Build
with
the infrastructure. Right, and it isn't going to happen overnight, but you know what? If you make a 5-year plan, there's no telling what we might be able to accomplish.
Our DEC hasn't made quorum in 4 years, more than 4 years.
You know how easily we could turn that around if we got maybe a couple of dozen people into positions? It would change everything.
You would have a DEC that wouldn't ghost us when we ran for office.
People just need to step up.
And that's, we're going to talk more about this. Let's move.
And we'll talk about that with Walker. But we do have a fun story for you guys this evening.
I have 2 story times today, guys, that I did.
Yeah.
So,
and this particular story.
Yes, exactly, Sam. And I would also point out, and as somebody who knows Cori Bush, she is badass, the person that you want in Congress. Like, I don't care if you don't agree with her on this or that or the other thing. She is representing her people 100%, and that is her priority. She is only there for that. She is there to help her people lift them up. She's here to help lift up her people. That is why she's there. So that's all.
Friend of the show and friend of the neighborhood, Guy Giberson, with the message of the night so far, and that's absolutely true because I like protein and I like veggies, so I ain't just gonna say that one's more important than the other. And again, this is just there's raised tensions, and a lot of people online with their shows tend to throw, like Trump would throw gasoline on the fire at these rallies. Well, that's a lot of what's going on social media right now.
Yeah.
And we're trying to avoid that. But one of the people who we agree is as detrimental to the movement as anybody is this lady right here, Anna Kasparian.
Wait, get rid of the comment. So today we present you Tales of a Snowflake Princess. We
did not ask for this. She decided to come at Jen.
I find it so funny. I find it so entertaining. So the deal is this woman, and we don't get involved in really the petty nonsense. We really don't. In fact, this is the only time we ever called out any other content creator ever. And the only reason we did it is because she attacked with zero evidence, mind you, one of our good journalists, Aaron Mate, and they claimed that he was like a Russian agent or being paid from Russia. Prove it.
Even if you did, and even if you disagree with him, the vitriol that she threw at him, so why don't you just say, well, you know what, we have a difference of opinion?
Or if you really want to prove him wrong, then go prove him wrong.
Yeah.
But you don't call someone out and claim that about a real journalist when you have zero evidence. So here's the thing. She didn't just call him out. She did a rant with a foul mouth, all like this in the camera, flipping the bird and saying F you to Aaron Mate. So I thereby referred to her as a raging cunt. Because if you are going to act like that, own it. Own it, Anna. Own it. So, now we have a story time. So she didn't
think too highly of that.
Apparently, Anna saw that she was the bootlicker and didn't think too much of that, which is fine with me. But so now we have a story for you, Anna. Well, for everyone, yeah. Peter,
let me wet my palate.
Peter does the best with this.
She is a princess.
Yes.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
Princess. So she could sit there and curse out Aaron Mate, but being called a raging cunt for it, woo, too much.
Once upon a time, there was a princess who liked to use her power for evil instead of good. She took millions of dollars from Lord Oligarch, Katzenberg, and then started attacking the very people who were fighting to save humanity from him and his corporate cronies. The princess suggested that the peasants choose their life of poverty by refusing to live in squalor conditions provided to them by Lord Oligarch. When confronted by the defenders of the village about the ignorance of her suggestion, the princess projected her own obsequious nature and accused the defenders of being grifters. Ironically, the princess failed to see that she is in fact the real grifter. For it was she, not the defenders, that took the 20 million from Lord Oligarch to be a mouthpiece for the oligarchy. The end.
Yeah. That was good. And that is the current story of Princess Snowflake, the Snowflake.
We love you, Lauren, but obviously I can't speak to whether some ladies would like to use that word on other ladies. It is what it is.
I don't care. I own that word. It is what it is. So I don't care.
So, Kovas, we will explain to you why we're bringing this up. So, we called Anna out on social media last night because she made this, what you would call but the video that she just made.
Oh yeah, she
made a very callous video referencing the homeless crisis that's going on in Los Angeles, which obviously has been going on for a long time. But here's the problem. She addressed it from the perspective that the homeless people, particularly like by the Santa Monica Pier, if you've ever been to LA, a lot of people know about the tent camps and whatnot, suggesting that they didn't actually want to be in housing. They actually wanted to be in tents, in tent camps.
She gave this impression in the way she projected something that they turned down housing. That's what it sounded like. That's what it sounded like.
Correct. And so the problem with the way she addressed this was not actually addressing the truth. Now, if you read the article, and I believe the article was in Newsweek, it's not that they don't want housing, it's that they don't want to go to a shelter. Now, if anybody knows what it's like in a housing shelter, it is nothing like being
horrible.
in a homeless shelter.
That's what we're talking. I mean, it's horrible.
It is basically a room with a bunch of people,
and it's not safe,
sleeping on the ground. Women get sexually assaulted.
Yeah, no,
in these
I've
places.
Heard from people that are homeless that they feel safer on the streets than in shelters.
So in this case,
I have heard that.
So in this case, they were alluding to the fact that, no, I do not want to go into a shelter. I'd rather be on the street. If we're talking about low-income housing, right, where you actually have a place.
Them a place.
Exactly. And so if you actually wanted to get people into, think about how many abandoned like hotels there are. There's places that you could put people.
Yeah.
So this idea that she was projecting and claiming, oh, well, I care about the homeless people. Well, if that's true, you would actually know that this is the case, that this is not them not wanting to be in housing. Who wouldn't want to, but who would want to sleep on the street?
Could it be that she takes money from Lord Oligarch and maybe he has something to do with what she believes? And
apparently Lord Oligarch, Mr. Katzenberg, has a financial vested interest in seeing these tent camps get removed. So as far as I'm concerned, this is more about answering to those who basically are funding your operation. Yeah. Now, you could say, well, you don't have any proof of that, but no, as an attorney,
I don't have proof. No, I'm just saying when you take the money, and I don't care whether you're a politician or who you are, if you're taking the money from somebody, that's who you're answering to. That will be my presumption. That is an appearance of impropriety, especially for someone who would claim to be a journalist. And so, yes, that does taint my perception. Can I prove it? No. But here's the thing. I don't have to. This isn't a criminal case. I don't have to prove anything. I'm not even accusing anybody of anything. I'm simply saying you take corporate money. Your motives are suspect to me. That's all. It's not an accusation. It's just how I feel. Onward.
Brian, thank you so much for that information. That is very, very important. We agree 100%. That is the inside-outside strategy. That is what we need to do. That is how we are going to have the most success. And without question,
there's so many open seats.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I guarantee if you looked at your local precinct committee, it probably would be open, or there would be a way to get you in somehow.
Yeah. The truth is, we're having somebody give an email, Pinellas.
Not me, us at Gmail.
Yep.
That's great. And that's the Tampa, St. Petersburg area.
Yeah.
So that's exactly where
a
lot of
progressive movement. That's good. All right. So guys, that is definitely an important thing to do. Okay, but we have an extra story. We do have another story.
And we're going to talk about this story with our guest, Walker Bragman, who's coming on. We are also going to be getting an update. Like I said, we will be in Cleveland tomorrow, but a group of Gen Corps volunteers are already in Cleveland. They drove crazy.
Well, it's okay. These guys, to me, they're great kids. I know that they're not kids, but to me, they're kids. But it's like this group of guys. It's like they're like a traveling frat party. And I love these guys. They're great kids. They're really great. I'm not traveling like that. I am just, that would be like driving across the country.
It's not for everybody, but we certainly understand. We respect where they're coming from. And we
notice
know
how they're there and we're not. So they obviously did something right.
No, I mean, listen, I can't put that amount of miles on my car right now because I'm on a lease. That's just me. But kudos to them for working their tail off to get up there and to help. And obviously we would have been there with them today doing the exact same thing.
We were supposed to be canvassing today, working the polls tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll get there in time to help in the afternoon and to do tomorrow evening, work the polls until closing. But yeah, it was through no fault of ours. That's the sad truth.
So for a lot of you who may not know the inner workings of politics in South Florida, what I can tell you is that, and of course this is on the corporate media and whatnot, keeping this election very much under wraps. And you're wondering, well, why would they keep this election under wraps? There is a special congressional election in Florida's 20th district. That is the district that was housed for 30 years by Alcee Hastings.
And he died.
He passed.
And it's we all knew this was happening. I mean, he had like stage 4 cancer and still decided to run again. Anyway, so he died. And so now there are a whole bunch of vultures that have come out of the woodwork for a seat that they somehow weren't brave enough to think they deserved prior to someone. They had to wait for someone to die, even though they've all been sitting there hovering over it, seriously, like vultures on a carcass. And yet there is one candidate that is progressive, and really progressive, not progressive by label only, like she's actually a progressive person, and has run for this seat, has name recognition, has money, and is really the person, and was brave enough to challenge him twice while he was still alive. That's the kind of courage we need. We don't need a bunch of politicos sitting around in whatever position they have or just got elected to, and then see something better up the ladder and decide to go for it. We don't need that. Okay. All of these people were perfectly fine sitting and waiting and doing whatever they were doing until an opportunity that they waited for. And Sheila is the only one of these people that has been fighting for that district for years now. So this is something that matters to us. Meanwhile,
Sheila
Scherfulus.
That right?
No, F-I-L-U-S.
F-I-L-U-S. McCormick.
Yes.
So we have done a podcast with her.
Yes, guys, we have interviewed Sheila. It's Sheila.
So if you guys would,
I say it well, Sheila Scherfulus McCormick. I'm very proud of being able to say that.
So if you want to check out the podcast, highly recommend that you do. So I thought that she was just a great progressive candidate to begin with. She is a huge supporter of Medicare for All and UBI. Yep. In fact, UBI is one of the primary issues that she's campaigning on, especially in a district that desperately needs cash relief.
Right now.
I mean, if you're talking about the housing crisis that we're heading for, that is here right now. I mean, talk about a district that could really benefit from it. And she's doing an amazing job, but what I didn't know, and apparently
I knew,
you knew, but I didn't. No, but I did not know, is that Sheila actually is very financially well off because she is an entrepreneur.
And he means her campaign.
Yes.
You shouldn't be talking about people's finances like that. He didn't realize that Sheila also had some financial, help in her campaign. He didn't realize that she was viable financially. No, I did. I knew that because I've known her since last campaign.
No, 100%. And it's a testament to her, as a person and what she has been able to accomplish. And hats off, because she is amazing. I mean, she really is.
And yet,
we have the Sun Sentinel, unfortunately, is what you would call the regional version of the Washington Post. That's basically what it is.
If the Sun Sentinel was a person, it would be our bootlicker pretty regularly.
So unfortunately...
So today we have a story.
Yes, we have a story. And unfortunately, we are dealing with a gentleman who happens to be Debbie Wasserman Schultz's attack dog. Let's just put it that way. That's basically his role.
And we'll get into all of this in a second. But so this reading, everybody, will be from the Journal of Contemporary Yellow Journalism, a record of news fit to piss on. And this is a premiere of this particular journal, so we hope you guys like this.
And there may be others, but in this case,
we're starting with this particular person, and I'm happy about it. Let's do it.
So the gentleman's name is Anthony Tony Mann. He writes for the South Florida Sun Sentinel. And once upon a time, there was a hack reporter that worked for a hack newspaper. Instead of reporting actual facts, the reporter spewed racist and misogynist nonsense at the behest of the corporate establishment. Some might even say he was their bitch. He never missed an opportunity to lick the boots of his local elected officials and quash progress. The end. And so why are we doing this story? The reason we're doing it is because if you were to read the article in the Sun Sentinel that Tony Mann wrote about Sheila Scherfulus McCormick, you would literally want to pull out his hair.
He's just, you talk about what he insinuates, like the way he writes. And by the way, let me preface this. The headline of the article, what was the headline of the article? It was candidate raises staggering, or like he called it
wealthy candidate gives staggering amount of money to her own campaign.
Right. Like he phrased it like this was so bad. But yet this is the same person who has never once questioned where our representative gets her money from. So when we ran against Debbie,
and this is what's even more interesting, because our guest Walker Bragman is actually going to be here in a minute. And this is on the heels. He writes this article on the heels of David Leventhal of the Business Insider in Washington, D.C., writing what you would call like a periodical of sorts in terms of the length. He wrote an article that includes Debbie Wasserman Schultz as one of 3 congressional representatives who have violated the Stock Act, which means that Debbie's involved in insider trading.
Which, again, I don't like to be somebody who points that out because, again, that's one of those things to me that I feel like everybody does. And it's like but it's so clear. It's like getting Al Capone on tax evasion.
That is true, but it's so clear as to, well, it's still terrible anyway.
Well,
I mean, they're all like guilty of all that stuff.
I know, and I'm not saying I support insider trading. I'm just saying, like,
it's very important to note, though, that this particular article, if you were to read it, again, Tony Mann, Sheila Sherfilis McCormick. If you read this article, I'm telling you right now, you would your stomach
Lauren
would turn.
Steiner, if you want to talk about misogyny.
This is as bad as it gets. He's basically implying, how in the hell does a black woman in her 40s have the financial resources to do this?
He calls into question without any sort of he calls it into question and just puts that out there. How could she afford to do this? So you don't question the corporate money, but a woman in her 40s, a black woman in her 40s, can't possibly have the resources to do that. Would you have questioned it if it was somebody else? Because you didn't ever question it before with any other candidate.
Not at all.
So I just find it interesting. And interestingly, Sheila is the one candidate that they didn't mention when they first
If you look at any of the articles that have been written about this congressional race, Sheila is always left out of the conversation.
They mention the other 5 people that are the more
viable
people, and they don't mention Sheila. And this is when he feels the need to mention Sheila, is to call into question how she came into her money. How dare you?
And this
kidding me?
And without further ado, because I think this is a great segue into our conversation with a real independent journalist, somebody who doesn't write slanderous articles trying to throw people under the bus, but just sticks to the facts of the story.
You know,
because just the facts.
Like a journalist.
Well, like a journalist. The only thing he's missing is the Greg Palast hat and pen.
That's the thing.
That's the only thing.
Love Greg Palast with the hat. Love him.
He is an independent journalist.
You know what, though? He's old school. That's why.
He is.
Greg Palast is so old school.
He is. Friend of the show and somebody who definitely is an advocate for the progressive movement in every which way possible and the right way and all about building bridges.
The correct way.
The correct way. That is correctly. Oh, Jen, apparently your audio is not great.
Why though?
I don't know. I hope everybody can hear her, but I got a message from Doug Grinsberg saying that it's not as good. So maybe project more.
I'm usually told by everybody that I am so loud. Like my mom used to want to regularly get my hearing checked.
Doug,
because they thought I talk so loud.
Doug, let us know if the audio gets better.
I'm sorry.
So with that
said,
it is now 8:30. It is time. We are going to have a fun conversation.
We are.
So tune in. And this is obviously an important conversation.
And everybody, let's appreciate Walker being able to jump in here when we were supposed to be in Cleveland. And now we're just sort of pulling a whole program out of our butts.
Hey, we're pretty good at doing that, wouldn't you say?
Clearly.
Wouldn't you say, Walker? We're pretty good at, making moves on the fly, getting things done. And we really appreciate you joining Generational Change for the first time.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Thanks for having me on. I just make sure my audio is working.
It's a little low.
It's a little low. Wait, is it better now?
Hold on. I was messing with the volume on our end. So
all right, so try it again.
Yeah, me too. Okay, wait. Sorry, my microphone's been a little weird lately. I don't know.
Now it's like good right now. It's good right now.
It should be good now. So that's good.
Okay. All right. So this works.
That works.
Okay. Well, look at this. Let's hope that this is not going to be a problem.
Not a great endorsement for my microphone, but
we have our own problems.
We've had our own problems with connections here,
and we
are working our way through it. But that's what happens when you're not working in a multi-million-dollar studio.
And you don't have money.
Yes, that's true. We're skitting by, but we really believe in what we're doing, and so
that's important, especially now.
And of course, I thought it was very important that we have this conversation this evening because pretty much all of what our show is about is really addressing the primary issues that we need to be focused on. There's so much of this infighting, especially when it comes to, the online left, and especially when it comes to a lot of the YouTube channels. Drama gets clicks. Everybody knows that. But even when you attempted to mend the fences, broker
let's have
the
him
peace,
say what he said. Let's have him put out what
we obviously would love to hear your feedback on what your experience has been like, because we've tried and doesn't seem to be as effective as we'd like.
No.
Oh, I don't want to get too much into it. I just I think that when Bernie Sanders lost in 2020, it created sort of a void. And I think a lot of people have rushed to fill that void. And there's a lot of disagreement sort of over the direction that the left will ultimately take. I have my own opinions about where the left should go. Other people have other opinions. But yeah, I think that the infighting online is pretty disheartening.
Yes.
It has been pretty disheartening. I think and somewhat counterproductive. But yeah, so one of the ways it's been counterproductive is it's sort of taken away from larger conversations about policy. One of those policies in particular, and that would be redistricting reform. A lot of people don't know, but in 14 days, the U.S. Census Bureau is supposed to release census data to the states, and that will allow them to start redrawing their congressional and state legislative districts. Now, that matters because where you're placed in your district determines how much power your vote has for Congress and for your state house. So if you're a diehard Democrat and you're in a solid red district, your vote doesn't really matter all that much, or vice versa. So right now, the Supreme Court has precedent. The precedent is you're allowed to draw those districts to empower one party over another. We can't review it as a court. It's a political question. So that's basically a green light to Congress to act, to say you can't draw districts to empower one party over another. You have to draw them fairly, and so they accurately represent the populations of your state. And so Congress isn't acting. They're out on recess. So you've got a Congress on recess, a precedent that allows for just extreme gerrymandering. And you've got, after 2010, the Republicans gerrymandered control of Congress. They held it until 2018 when the Democrats had a big blue wave in response to Trump. And they've held a majority in the state legislatures ever since. So for a decade, they've held the state legislatures. And so Democrats have this unique opportunity now to fix that. And they should fix it. And the left should be thinking about this, because if the left is going to come to power, it's going to be through this base of voters who typically lean liberal or left and vote for, if that base can't elect candidates in Congress or the state legislatures, it's game over for any issue you care about. I mean, you're in Florida. Climate change is insane.
It is.
But Florida at this point, really, other than how many counties, is basically a red state. It's real. I mean, we're a red state, but like most Democrats in Florida's votes only matter because of how it's gerrymandered. If we were districted properly, there would be probably no blue districts. And that's what's interesting. And as we have a very Republican state legislature, you would wonder why we have any Democrat districts. So like right now, they're getting another opportunity to change that. They're going to get another opportunity to take that away.
So I don't know the specifics on Florida, but nationwide, Republicans gained a palpable advantage in the number of seats just through redistricting alone. And in fact, if everyone voted the same way they voted in 2020, where Democrats won 4 million more votes nationwide, the Republicans will take the House in 2022. Like everyone could still vote exactly how they did in 2020, and the Republicans will still take the House.
What do we do?
Well, you ban partisan redistricting. You pass some legislation to do that. HR 1 or the For the People Act or S1, whatever you want to, however you prefer to call it, that banned partisan gerrymandering. And it had a number of provisions to ensure that redistricting wasn't used to disempower communities of color, that it would be a fair process. Some of those provisions, it's too late to implement, but some of them can still be implemented. There is still time. 14 days. Congress is on recess. I'm hearing from my sources that it's not going to happen. So it's not great. We're not in a great situation. But while that's going on, it seems like everybody's just throwing barbs at each other, and it's like, please just channel it into this for now, for 2 weeks. Just everything aside, talk about this, call your legislators, show up at their offices, send emails, petition, do all that good stuff, all the things that activists are so good at doing and that we journalists are so good at commenting on from the sidelines. All that stuff.
I'm scrolling this thing across the board. It's bottom. It's from when we did our Assange telethon, but this is the Capitol switchboard to reach your representative. So if somebody wants to call, you're going to get a recording, you're going to get a voicemail, but you can definitely leave them a message and tell them that this is something that's really important to you.
Yeah, tell them redistricting reform is necessary. Like, even if you take redistricting reform out of HR 1 and just have a clean bill, just the redistricting reform parts, that would be enough. That has to get done. Because once you empower the voting base, I mean, change is slow. People fear change, I think. But you do have a majority in this country that supports policies like Medicare for all. Those numbers are much higher among Democrats than they are among Republicans. So, for people who think this doesn't matter, which base do you want to convince to fight alongside you? Do you, the one that's already convinced, or the one that you have to put more work into when you're already at a disadvantage with how much money is flowing into politics? Just this is the issue. I've been talking about it for 5 years now, since 2015. It's really important if you're looking for literature. David Daley has a book called Rat Fucked. Can I swear?
I've already said
matter
the
now.
C word on this show.
So
I've already said
doesn't
the
matter
C
now.
word before, so go for it.
Sorry, yeah, the book is called Rat Fucked, and it's great. It's all about how the Republicans orchestrated this procedural coup in 2010, and that was before the Supreme Court really opened the floodgates. I mentioned that the court said that gerrymandering is a political question. We can't do anything about it. That happened in 2019, so we haven't had an election cycle where that precedent has been in place. And then for redistricting, rather, we haven't had a redistricting cycle where that's been in place. And there's another decision that came down, the Shelby County decision, which got rid of preclearance, or it struck down the formula for federal preclearance. For people who don't know, when under the Voting Rights Act of 1965, states with a history, or jurisdictions, not just states, counties, places that had a history of racial discrimination, had to clear with the federal government changes to their election laws, their voting laws. So that included electoral maps. So you had a lot of electoral maps that got struck down by the Supreme Court struck down under preclearance just on its own. The federal government said you can't do it. And now that formula is gone. Congress has yet to put in a new formula, so preclearance is out. It's no longer applies. So those two decisions work in concert to ensure that what's happening, what will happen now following this census data being released, it's just going to be insane. Like nothing we've ever seen. A historic disempowerment of democratic.
So people aren't at all going to be expecting, like, it's going to hit out, like they're going to see, like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I mean, it's going to be like, it's hard to even imagine how much of a sham democracy we will have at that point. Like, people are already like, oh, we don't really have a democracy here. And they cite things like the Electoral College. That's true. The Senate. That's also true. Money in politics. That's true. But how about when your elected officials get to choose their own voters and decide, how to stay in office? They carve out their own blocks. And that's sort of happening now. It's going to get so much worse. Right. It is bad now. In some places, it's really bad. And people are aware of it. And most people, when you ask them this, do not like it. Most people don't want gerrymandered districts. And when you explain it to them, they definitely aren't supportive of that. It's just that this is so not a sexy topic. And so nobody talks about it because it's really not. It's very unsexy.
I know. It's very technical and it's a little in the weeds, and it's not as easy or sexy to understand as something like Medicare for all. I get that. People are like, how does this affect me? Well, your state legislatures affect you probably more than the federal government at this point.
Ours is just so bad at this point. Like,
right.
I always say this, Florida, we have a very low bar. We had Rick Scott for 8 years. Okay. So like we have a low bar. And I think because of that, it isn't just that it's red and the people are red. It's that our tolerance level for abuse is just such that we don't really notice that stuff because everything's just so filthy corrupt. Like you don't notice it anymore. You know,
that's the danger. We can't let that happen nationwide. It's very easy to watch as just basic pillars of our democracy get chipped away. Every year it seems we lose something a little more. This really matters. This is a big fucking pillar.
Yeah.
If this falls, we have a decade of ingrained minoritarian rule in this country. And that is really, really scary because that minority party doesn't believe in climate change.
They don't believe in democracy, apparently.
They politicized vaccinations for political reasons. They threw, like, this is not a party that has your best interests at heart. Now, neither party really has your interests at heart. I acknowledge that. But like, it's really bad if voters who believe in climate change cannot elect candidates who at least talk about climate change as a reality. Like, politics will be slow to change. It will, but it has to be able to change, and this will prevent it from being able to change.
Right. This will completely shut out the inside system. Like we talk about working both an inside and an outside strategy. This essentially closes off the inside strategy. And that leaves us pretty impotent, I've got to say. I mean, that's pretty bad.
Well, and we're speaking with Walker Bragman, journalist, has written for Jacobin and The Intercept. What I do think
the Daily Poster, by the way.
The Daily Post.
I know my old moniker was independent journalist. Now I'm with the Daily
All right.
Poster.
Well,
we're going to change.
You're with our buddy David, so we definitely got to update that. And Sirota's done an amazing job. So
he has.
It's really awesome that you guys
I loved having him on.
Being able to do that. The thing that I did want to bring up, which I think is very important, is there is sort of this: what is the best possible strategy? Like, where is the best possible avenue in terms of making that infrastructural change? Now, there is this talk about, well, we have to start a third party, and that's the only way this is going to work. The one thing that I think is a fatal flaw here that nobody is talking about, we don't have to name names, we know who the players are. The point is, they don't talk about what the Tea Party movement actually did to systemically take over the GOP. It wasn't about electing congressional representatives. It was about taking over state and local parties. They got people onto the school board. They got people into the city commission. They got people into precinct committee positions. In fact, the GOP down here, they treat being a precinct committee captain as like the most important position you could have in the GOP. So they really emphasize that infrastructural change that only one state has attempted to do so far. It looks like they're doing a pretty solid job, and that's Nevada. And the question is, can we retrofit that and do it in a whole bunch of other places? It looks like New York is on its way. And that's as good a state as any to really have that infrastructural change. But it seems to me that that's what's getting lost by a lot of people in a lot of other states, recognizing that we already have the tools for us to take over the party systemically. It's just a question of whether or not you're willing to get into the weeds, as you would allude to, and really put in that work, the grunt work that isn't sexy, doesn't get talked about a lot, but it is so vitally important for the changes that we need. And if you are able to systemically take over those areas, then those elected representatives in Congress, they have to answer to you. Otherwise, they will be primaried because the infrastructure will be in place where they'll have nowhere to go. Kind of like Kyrsten Sinema in Arizona. It's kind of showing itself right now. What are your thoughts on that?
So that there are efforts to take over state parties, and there are progressives who are thinking institutionally. In Michigan, we did a story about the Michigan Democratic Party. There's a progressive movement there that's been very successful. But I think that that's not to say that it's adequate. We don't have enough. There's not enough institutional thought on the left. I think. There's a tendency to sort of reject whatever the other person is doing. There has to be some solidarity, and we have to think institutionally. You're absolutely right. Running for precinct captain, those positions, those matter. local politics matters. And it's the most, I would say it's the most productive thing that you can do on an individual level, is get involved with your local politics and try to change it. It's very hard. It's very hard. You run up against very strong opposition. My father is a town councilman in my hometown, and just, working to make changes through a democratic machine there that is just very, very entrenched. Like, it's hard. It's going to be hard at every level, but it wouldn't be hard if it weren't worth doing. It is the right battle to be having, because you build power structures, and that's how you bring about progress. I think you raised a really great point. Thank you for raising it.
Absolutely. And as you can imagine, one of the big problems that we do face, and this is much, much different in the Democratic Party than it is in the GOP. And you can see it reflected in the fact that Kevin McCarthy is 55 and Nancy Pelosi is 80. If you go to a lot of the local DEC chapters, and I don't know what it's like in New York, you would obviously be able to speak better on that, but I can tell you down here in Florida, and yeah, it's the assumption that, it's God's waiting room and all that jazz. But I can tell you that of the 3 counties that I've gone to in what you would consider to be Democratic strongholds, Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade County, but especially in Broward and Palm Beach County, the age of the precinct volunteers and the people who are there, it's very reflective in somebody like Pelosi. In a way, the party infrastructure looks like the leadership. And I guarantee you, it probably is a similar circumstance in the GOP. The leadership at the local levels are probably a lot younger and a lot more enthusiastic about being involved. Do you notice that that's the case in the current state of the Democratic Party infrastructures overall?
So I can't speak to that as, authoritatively. I can only speak from my personal experience. And I will say that it is the same in my hometown, that the Democratic infrastructure is older. And that is a big problem for Democrats. I think when you are, and in some ways the Democratic Party has a rough go of it, because if you're the party that's supposed to be for working people and for, big climate action and all of these things, when you're the party of, supposed to be the party of FDR, and then you become the party of Reagan, as I think the Democrats have, the COVID response is really Reagan-esque. Leave everything up to the states, put it all on the individual, and then, see
well,
where
they don't
see what
represent
happens.
labor anymore, so they're pretty Reagan-esque, I suppose.
But yeah, So when you're the party of government and you don't utilize government, people lose faith in you, I think, very quickly. But when you're a party like the Republicans, who are against government, and that's if you had to sum up their message, it's we don't believe in the government. They're doing just fine because they don't have to do anything. They just have to stop things from getting done. It's much easier to dismantle something than it is to build it.
Yeah.
So in a sense, like, it's harder to get people active in the Democratic Party when they have this, I think, 4-decade history of just letting people down, in letting workers down in a really big way. And that's not to say that anybody has done well for America's workers in the last.
No, there is no Labor Party in this country. We don't have one.
Well,
but it makes it very difficult for Democrats, especially because young people are informed. They're active. They're engaged. They believe in big things. They don't have years of cynicism beat into them. They're excited. They want to get stuff done, and they have a bigger imagination for what can be done. And that is a great thing. We really do need to reimagine the role of our federal government in our society. Government can do things. It has very broad powers, and it can be utilized to do good things.
And I got to tell you, it's a great segue, because I know there are people who have their opinion about whether or not Nina Turner should be elected tomorrow. And I can't emphasize enough, we will be there on the ground, with her tomorrow.
I'll be a zombie, mind you.
We will, but we will do everything in our capacity.
I'm gonna look pretty.
But it's all good. I think this race is immensely important to the movement. I think a lot of people are down right now.
If it weren't, they wouldn't be fighting so hard against her. If they weren't scared, if they didn't think that Nina was a game changer, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing.
And this is no disrespect.
Very important.
Yep. And this is no disrespect to AOC, but Nina's the one. She is the heir apparent to Bernie's movement. She is the one that I think could really revitalize this movement. And I also think she's the person who will go further than Bernie would in terms of challenging power the way that it needs to be challenged. I think to get her in would obviously take immense pressure off of Alex and a lot of other people who, she has a certain spirit to her, a certain fight to her. I actually was in Philly for the People's Convention in 2016 when she wrapped her arms around Jill Stein. And I said, oh, this is going to play at the convention. And it did. So she really has this forward thinking, take no prisoners type attitude. She does it in a very nice way, really encouraging way.
But she takes it a step further than Bernie was ever willing to go in terms of sticking up for herself and fighting back and doing what she needs to do. And also, she doesn't have lifelong ties with her friend Joe Biden. So, she has a slightly different, she hasn't been in there for so many years.
Yeah. And I do think that plays a role as well. And so for people downplaying this race, I think this race is immensely important. And if Nina were to win, I do think it would be the right shot in the arm for the progressives going into 22. What do you think?
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I think that this is a very important race. And I think that something that gets lost is that every generation of progressives that gets elected, or every subsequent progressive that gets elected, they get a little more emboldened. The people in power, the progressives that are already in will be a little bolder. They'll speak a little louder. They'll be less afraid to go and stand out on the steps of the Capitol after their own party let the eviction moratorium expire. I mean, think about that. This is huge. It's huge. Like it might not deliver the eviction moratorium because they still don't have enough power within in the House, and a lot of them are new. So you're not on, you don't have the choice committee seats. But it is important that you have a vocal contingent of elected Democrats who are willing to say our leadership has made a serious mistake. It cannot stand, and we are here to say that it will not stand. That is important. You need that. Nina Turner will add to that. And then progressives who get elected after Nina Turner, that they'll be even louder. Like I don't want to anoint anyone the heir apparent to Bernie Sanders. I think that it's all of them. It's important. It's all of them.
It's not me, us. That's the whole point.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not one person. It's just, the more people that get elected, the louder they'll be. And they might not be perfect. Now, every single one of them might not be 100% aligned with you, but they will pass. If they have the power to do it, they will pass policies that will make your head spin in comparison to what has happened for 4 decades. This is the start of something. It's not the end. It's very important, and redistricting reform is an essential thing to do.
You sound so much more optimistic than you did this afternoon. So I'm glad to hear.
I had a headache. I took some Advil.
You're alive and well now, brother.
I view Nina as, it isn't one person. It's sort of like the straw that broke the camel's back. At one point, there is going to be that one. I've always said this is like a balance, and there will be that point when it tips. And so we need to keep adding to it and not getting irritated when it doesn't get there exactly and give up on it. It's like, that's the problem with going after them. So to me, so long as they're not on corporate payrolls, then we need to believe that we will inevitably get those people to push the policies we want, because those people are representing people. So
call them out when they fuck up. Call them out.
Yeah.
That's how you keep people on track. Don't do this thing where you elect people and then, that's it. But when they, it's not all or nothing. It's not they're entirely on our side or they're not at all on our side. There is it matters. In politics, you don't know who your enemies are going to be today or tomorrow. Who your enemy today might be your friend tomorrow. Look at Peter Dow. Mm-hmm. Peter Dow did a complete 180, and you don't know who your allies are going to be. And
allies are different on different issues.
Exactly.
That's the other thing. And we talk about that all the time. I'll talk to anybody if I think it's going to make things happen that I think are in the best interest of people. I'll talk. We have a Republican group here. I met one of the leaders of that group because he was protesting the drilling in the Everglades, and they believe very much in Everglades restoration. So, and yet, here's the catch, Walker. Here's the best part. So this gentleman, at some point during the last election, we were out at the polls just visiting with people and whatever. And I went up and was talking with him in November at his election. He was running for office. And I got the side eye and crap from the blue team. Oh, I can't believe you would go talk to him. And I'm like, okay, he's somebody who believes in Everglades restoration. What? And besides that, he's a nice guy. So like, I just happen to like him, but like they were so bent out of shape that I would talk to someone on the other team. And I'm like, this is why we can't get stuff done.
My father told me something that I will repeat now. He said that there are, and he got this from somebody he knew, there are good bad guys and there are bad good guys.
It's very true. It's true. And what we're dealing with when we see all this infighting is that. And that's what it looks like. There's points where I'm looking at this and there's no good guy. They're all wrong and they're all wasting their time and being unproductive. It's not like I pick a team, but everybody loves a team. Everybody loves a team just like everybody loves a villain. And you need to have a villain in order to have your team. And so it's it's like this tribalism. It's just
outrage porn.
Yeah.
It's outrage porn.
Yeah.
Like let me just say to your viewers, I don't give a fuck about what side of what online argument you're in. Like, please talk about these issues that matter, like redistricting reform. I keep going back to it.
No, it's important.
Matters. It's so important.
So where can people find you? Where are people going to find you?
People can find my work in the Daily Poster, and they can find me on Twitter at Walker Bragman. I've frozen my Patreon account because I'm less able to post on it, so I'm not charging people. I am on Patreon.
That's very like noble and stuff. But if your Patreon is where people pay to get your work, even if that's not where the work is, you should still let them make that contribution. Like I have people that I'll spend their money on their Patreon, but they don't post on Patreon. I don't care if that's what they post. I've been a lot busier at work these days, so I don't have time to keep it up, and it felt like anyway.
So it's Walker. So it's Walker Bragman at Twitter.
At Walker Bragman and then the Daily Poster.
At Daily Poster.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, and thanks for talking about stuff that matters. And
we try. Yeah. You know what? We really do try. I would say when we started this, it wasn't a live stream show. When we first started this, my idea was long form interviews. And I like to have on people, if I read your book and I think it's interesting, like this is about providing like a library of information on a multitude of issues.
Well, you know what?
I mean, we do have candidates like that we'll have on, but we usually like to have a long form interview. So we're really very information.
That's a great point, because one of the guests we're actually having, Walker, and this is like a very good, it shows you the range within which our show goes. Range. Yeah. And so we're actually on the same night having two interesting guests. One, we're going to have Carol Roth, who you probably know, just wrote that book about small business. So of course, she's on the political right. But one of the reasons we're having her on is to have that conversation about, well, if you believe in the small business as we do, then you really should be fighting for Medicare for all, because it just makes financial sense at this point to go that route. And then we're going to have on Jacob Allen, who's the VP of the Nevada Dems, to basically tell people all the way on the left, hey, this is one of the ways from an infrastructural standpoint, you can make a difference.
We're going to see the blueprint. But you know what, when we talk to people, the truth is we'll talk to anybody. Again, I'll talk to anybody if they're bringing value and it introduces us to their audience. And that's a really key thing. So like I went on Tim Pool's show. That's not my people. I think I got called Karen 1,000 times in an hour. But yet we got new people. And what if we reached a whole bunch of new people with what we're saying and what we're trying to put out there? That's progress. So I'll talk to anybody, really.
Yeah. And I think that that's how we're going to build this coalition. And, we certainly hope that, we'll be able to continue this networking as we go forward. Your work is fantastic. Obviously, David Sirota, starting the Daily Poster was a fantastic idea. It certainly has, anybody who needs to turn to not even necessarily progressive, but just people-powered independent journalism. That's where it's at. And that's what we desperately need. And that's why,
Soon
like
we're going to have an app for it. Soon we're going to have an app that everybody can use. It'll get your independent news right there.
That rocks, man.
What we need.
And unfortunately,
Alex Koch and I we were releasing the beta in September. That's
okay. So when will you come back on when that's up and running?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
We started a nonprofit. We created this app, and hopefully through Progressive Coders Network, they were the ones who actually built it. They've done a great job. It looks fantastic.
That's awesome.
It's going to be awesome. You're going to be able to get all your favorite stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, we'll definitely have you on to plug it.
Truthfully,
again.
Walker, anytime, like if you have something you want to say, feel free to tell us.
Just like, when it comes to, especially to journalists, you have an open invitation. Jordan Chariton has an open invitation. The work that you guys do is immensely important.
I want Abby Mark.
I'm in good company.
But
yes.
Abby doesn't come back, respond easily.
But
I want her to be.
Yeah, we'd love to have Abby on again.
I do.
Listen. Like I said, this
coalition's got Max not responding for a while.
Well,
just saying.
Jen knows Max Blumenthal on a personal level, so it's they're busy. They really are. They really are busy. Those are not people that you have to question whether they're really doing work. So with that said, guys, Walker Bragman at the Daily Poster, check out his work. It's really awesome, and we really appreciate you coming on the show tonight. We will see you in September, my friend.
Bye, Walker.
Have a good night. And so
he's so sweet.
That's to me, these are the conversations that I find encouraging. I think it's very important that we do this.
Guys, support the real journalists.
Yeah, for
Please.
real. Yeah, I know we should, we constantly should be talking about how to improve our show, but the truth is we're doing this because we give a damn.
Right, but we're not a news source.
No.
And we don't claim, we're an information source.
Sure.
And I do like to get guests on here and have pretty interesting conversations and get good information. So I won't say we're not a factual information source, but we're not a news source. You know what I mean? Like, guys, follow the journalists, follow the news, understand, take an interest.
No, and I agree. And, we're not going to put it up. But Martha, listen, we totally understand where you're coming from. We have been very vocal about, the issues that we have down here in South Florida.
Absolutely.
This is not a secret. We know that there is a lot of, again, I don't want to go down the road of nefarious, but it's what you call impeding progress. And that is one of the biggest problems that we have. And that's what we're fighting against. But as we alluded to, we really do believe that if we can get Nina Turner over the finish line tomorrow, that is going to be tremendously important to this movement.
Martha, he is the reason why Savage Joy now doesn't like me anymore. And that it's annoying.
Yeah.
And he did so by being a dick and then got mad when I called him a dick. And he said, I can't believe you called me a dick.
Well, don't be a dick. Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. So that's sort of the problem with that person.
But on a much more brighter note, we are going to
cute boys. Is that Sam with his hair all cut, all cute? Is that Sam?
That is definitely Sam. Sam wants to be up close and personal.
Sam always wants to be up close and personal. Look how cute his hair is.
So even though we will be in Cleveland in about 12 hours.
Oh
but
my God.
The point is, we do have to bring in our wonderful Gen Core crew.
Let's see the Gen
who have
people
been on the ground in Cleveland.
Are we coming? We're on. We're on.
You're on. Turn it down. Turn those down.
We have a terrible lag. Oh my God.
Right there. I like that.
Okay, Eli, both you and Sam loving the haircut. Both of you.
Yeah, we're having connection problems.
Yeah, we can't really hear.
So here's what we're gonna
they're gonna try to call back in.
They'll try to call back in. Okay.
They're having technical difficulties.
All right. So we all have technical
Boys
difficulties
look so
these
cute.
days.
Who is the other guy?
I actually
Eli
don't know
and
who that
Sam?
gentleman is. I do not know who that is.
We do not know the man in the middle. We do not know who that is. We'll find out. So those guys, and there's a few more of them up there too, that are basically, they're kind of like political carnies. I love them, but these guys like to travel around and help push progress forward.
Jonathan with an excellent comment. Yes, absolutely. And look, you're not going to agree on everything that they do, but again, it's independent journalism. And, you know, to David's credit, David Sirota's credit, you know, he was on Bernie's campaign and he had Bernie's email list, and he just thought, you know what, this is the most effective way for me to build my channel, or in this case, our news source. And it's worked. It's worked very well.
We used our people to start our platform, but that's what we say is part of the progress. See, one of the things that Republicans tend to do that Democrats don't do, Republicans are always campaigning. Republicans are always running. There's never an in-between. They're always running. They're always building momentum. They're always pushing their stuff at every single level. Democrats really only seem to be running during when they're running for a campaign. And then when that campaign ends, it goes away and falls off the face of the earth, never to be heard from again. So we're suggesting, through this idea of transforming politics into service, our suggestion would be to candidates, keep your campaign going as progress. Like, you can use it in different ways. It's a platform. So you can change that to message to not necessarily be vote for me for Congress, but for, you know, whatever it is you want to put out there. Keep the dialogue going with people and keep pushing your message. Whether or not you ever decide to run again, it's just sort of, that's part of this snowball that we're talking about building, where it's more than just one person getting into Congress. And quite honestly, and this is something I wonder, and I've spoken about actually this afternoon when I was talking to Walker.
Yeah.
And I've said it before, like, why don't our Congress people have volunteers in their communities out doing community service?
You know how easily you could do that?
Oh my God, we do it. I mean, it's hard for us because we don't have a staff or anybody.
Well, if you were to run again at some point and you were able to get elected, imagine how many super volunteers you would have. Like our awesome crew, South Florida in the house, in Cleveland. Wait a second.
Who do we have there? Is that
this is
Pablo?
No, I don't know. No. I'm talking about, which twin am I looking at behind
Pablo.
You? Pablo.
Oh.
Okay. Just checking. So I can tell up close. I can tell up close. And they all got their hairs cut. They look so handsome.
And who is this wonderful gentleman right here?
Who's this guy?
Hi, I'm Savion.
Savion, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, I came here with these guys.
Yeah, you guys
talk about a road trip.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to work together at Florida Rising.
And I met Savion.
That's really, really super. So for you guys, this is Sam, this is Savion, this is Pablo, and this is Eli. Well, 3 and hopefully 4 of the most awesome volunteers that you can imagine. We do have them here in Florida. They do exist, like out in the wild, but you'll find them.
No, it's like the rare species. It's like when people see those rhesus monkeys over near the airport, you know, and they're coming back. The rhesus monkeys are making a comeback, so maybe we have a chance with our progressives.
Well, let's keep our foot on the gas pedal. And obviously, right now, as we were talking about, we cannot emphasize how important this race is to get Nina elected. We obviously want to hear from you guys because you've been there for a few days. Would love to hear what's been going on the ground. I briefly got a insight into what was going on earlier today.
We were supposed to be there today.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys are familiar with our story and what has happened, but needless to say, it was a nightmare of epic proportions at the airport, but we'll be there. So with that said, the floor is yours, guys. We'd love to hear your thoughts on, what's going on in Cleveland, how the race is feeling. And apparently Nina's opponent doesn't like to play clean, but who's surprised by that?
Okay. Well, she was endorsed by Hillary Clinton. Yeah. You guys say more.
That is true.
So there you go. So guys, tell us what it's been like canvassing with Nina's people.
The billboard you saw.
Yeah, around 100% not been playing at all.
Where's your guys' microphone? Where's your audio coming to? Who's talking into it? Yeah, but it's not great. You need.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah. Take the floor. I'll take the floor.
Yeah. Do that.
You can hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So Chantel Brown 100% has not been playing this clean. She literally has her people like taking out signs, and there's massive billboards of just attack ads against Nina. And it's really violent, and you can see the kind of that hatred that was towards Bernie in 2016. You can see that with Chantel Brown's election. And she's literally even turning voters away from her because of how negative she is.
But
yeah, we saw some of that today.
Which is exactly what Hillary did, and which is why she didn't win. That's exactly why. You bitter as hell.
Yeah, and I think, and Alan Parker brings up a great point that Bakari's. I think it's Bakari Sellers, Alan. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Sellers.
Who was definitely against Bernie, but he's with Team Nina, and I think that just speaks to Nina's ability to lead and to people just recognizing that she may be on the non-corporate side, I may be on the corporate side, but she's definitely a winning horse that you want to back, and that's frankly smart politics, I guess.
She's just special.
She is.
She's just special. And those of us and Chantel Brown. Oh my God.
Nina
that's crazy. Wait, what's
on the ground here in Cleveland? Nina really seems to have a lot of support on the ground here in Cleveland. Like, it's a lot. The first night I got here, Carlos and I, who's not with us now,
I know, I was gonna say.
It's almost 2 a.m. It's 1:45 in the morning. And there is a man on the corner with a bullhorn and a Nina Turner sign.
Wow.
We're like, that's dedication. Right outside where we were staying, too. It was so funny. We got a picture with him. It was great.
That's awesome.
So tell us about the rally. Obviously, oh
God, guys. Here it goes.
Oh my God.
I was very happy to see you young fellows at the rally the other day. I hope you enjoyed my speech. I was feeling like I was on the campaign trail again, Jen. It was an amazing feeling, really incredible. And what can you say about Nina? She's a wonderful, wonderful lady, and we are going to get her elected into Congress tomorrow. Am I right?
This is scarily accurate.
It's
That's a pleasure of
I
hearing.
got to use the right hand.
Wow. This is the first time I've heard.
That's enough, Bernie, for now.
That's enough. Bernie.
Now, do Trump.
Well, Sam, you were here when it all started.
Yeah.
Sam was one of our original generational change producers, and was here, and actually was the person behind the masks.
I'm responsible.
I mean, the idea behind getting the mask, going with the mask.
Well, Sam, I owe it to you, brother, because I've gone all the way in. I've got 4 different impressions that I do now, and Mike Figueredo from the Humanist Report thinks that I should be his new voiceover guy. So I guess
he wants to use him for, was it Bernie or Trump? Trump.
For Trump, maybe both. You never know. I mean,
did you ever get a Bill Clinton mask?
Oh.
Yes.
There you. Wait, this is good.
Oh my God.
All I have to say, and this is very important, let's be clear. I love me that Nina Turner. My God, is that lady a peach or what?
Anybody's better than Hillary.
Well, anybody. I've had to live with Hillary for almost 50 years. What are you talking about? You wouldn't know pain if it hit you in the face. I've been living with that lady for far too long, but my goodness, that Hillary, and she could drive anybody nuts. But that Nina, oh my goodness, that lady is sweet. Oh, but still my heart right here. So you guys work extra hard. You get her elected.
Need to do that for her.
Well, you're gonna.
She probably think it's funny.
If you get her elected, I'm gonna be able to bang some visits on the hill. You know what I'm saying? Willie can't control himself sometimes.
You want to see something interesting about her campaign lit?
Yes.
On the back here, I don't know how well you can see this.
Yeah,
see the endorsements. See all the people. Yeah, I see the endorsements.
A couple people might be missing from it. Which is
who we miss? I don't see Bernie there.
Why is Bernie not on there?
There's no AOC. I think that's definitely a deliberate choice on their end. Isn't that
maybe? Wait. But isn't that Nina's literature?
Well, yes, but here's the thing. That may be what plays in the district.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's very important. Yeah. Hey, listen, you got to do what you got to do.
No, for sure.
Winning is, listen, you win at whatever costs you have to in terms of strategy, as long as you're not sacrificing your principles.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
Strategy is strategy. And that's where people that are on the outside that criticize people that are trying to work the system on the inside, they don't understand the concept of strategy. And that's a big problem. We get that all the time.
Lauren, I have been criticized for trying to do Obama. I simply can't get him down.
I won't let him do black people.
I won't
let him do black people.
I can't. I just
can't.
I've tried.
And he also doesn't do women well. He really does. Like
I could try to do
Elizabeth Warren. No, it's not good. Don't do him.
Well, let me tell you the one that I can do.
He does have a new one, guys.
Well, I'll tell you the one that I was doing.
He has a new one, Sam.
Oh my God!
No, not that.
No, Mickey Mouse! I saw you guys all the way.
He hasn't seen your Joe.
Oh, he hasn't seen my Joe. Oh, that's okay. You guys, you come back down to Disney World afterwards. We'll go have a good time.
I can't. That's so
Earlier.
but he does have it. He does have a new president.
Yes, I do have a new president. Somebody who desperately doesn't want Nina to win. Let me assure you.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Oh.
Now look, I don't really know much about this. Nina, what's
Nina.
her name?
Her name's Nina.
Nina.
Listen, Pat.
Come on, man. Look, here are the facts, Jack. Nina's really not on our team. You know, she's not a good Democrat.
Come
We
on,
need
man.
good Democrats. We need great Democrats. And who's running against her?
Chantel Brown.
Oh, yeah. Well, that lady, you know, she'll make a great Democrat. Tremendous. Really, really great. And I'm Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And I approve this message.
No way.
I really do.
Isn't it, though, going back to the lit, do you really think
Let me see.
Bernie would be so toxic to her that it's going to cost her votes? Because someone like Chantel Brown is literally just running off of money and a Hillary Clinton endorsement.
Well, here's the thing.
And Jim Clyburn.
Who won that district in 2016? Was it a Bernie district or a Hillary district?
Mm.
And by how much? Because I'm going to tell you, if it's like a large, older Black population, they do not care for Bernie Sanders, most of them, and they are huge Hillary fans.
Yeah. Now, I think they're, okay, there you go. Oh, you went widescreen?
You went wide? All right. So I don't know the answer to that, Sam, but if her demographics there suggest that there's a very pro-Hillary sentiment amongst their Democrats there, because like down here, you know, we're not a Bernie blue, we're a Biden blue.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, but I will tell you that older Black women, those are like the toughest nuts to crack as far as like a demographic to break through and sort of change. They're the slower to change of demographics.
Well, they're also the most consistent with the Democratic establishment, and that's part of the reason
they're
why
very,
the
very
change is hard
loyal,
to come by.
And they very much still do love the Clintons.
But I think it also speaks to Nina's, you know, footprint in that particular area, if for no other reason, because, you know, Marcia Fudge did not decide to get involved in the race, and it would have been interesting if she had decided to do that. But I think by staying out, you know, maybe that helps. I know there were people who were talking about Obama possibly making an endorsement in the race, and I think if they really thought that, you know, Chantel probably had a really good chance to win, that he probably would just do it just to try to knock Nina off. So it seems to me
he'll do anything as long as he can stay in his nice Hamptons estate or his wherever he is, Martha's Vineyard.
It is what it is.
$14 million.
But based on the energy you guys are seeing on the ground, do you think it definitely is with Nina in terms of, you know, the canvassers, the enthusiasm, all that stuff? I mean, it seems from a distance that it's with Nina for sure, but obviously we need to hear it from you guys.
Yes, the energy at the rally, for example, was palpable. You know, you could feel in the room how excited people were to actually have this change happen in their community. Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
you know that Nina was going to be the one to bring.
I'm not surprised. Look, was it Chantel Brown had to have the audience, the applause, like the recorded applause, like that she played at her thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a good sign.
Exactly.
Not a good sign, Chantel. Not a good sign.
The people recognize Nina. Mm-hmm. You know, people literally, we just wear these shirts, and you know, random people are like, yes, Nina, because
she's from there. That's her community. It's not like she's one of these people that picks up and moves so that she could win a seat somewhere.
And it also goes to show you how important name recognition really is. Like, it really matters that much to the average voter. It's a very important thing. But one thing that I did want to touch upon, that speaking of the rally, I mean, listening to Dr. West give his speech, I mean, talk about blowing the roof off of the building. There is just nobody like that man. He really is something special. And I can imagine what it was like to feel that energy in the room when he was giving his speech.
Yes. Something that he said really resonated with me and stuck with me, which was that love in public looks like, or he
justice.
Said, yes.
Justice is what love looks like in public.
Yes.
Oh, I can quote Dr. West for you. Now, granted, I had an opportunity to speak to him and I was a blubbering moron, but I actually could tell you some of his better quotes. Yeah, I can't run into him again. It's embarrassing.
Well, you might.
After the incident.
You might.
I don't know.
You
I was
never
like
know.
I was an idiot. I think the only time I was ever that big of an idiot was when I was 16 and I met Dan Marino.
Well, there you go. So we meet your
Also an
heroes.
idiot. Yeah.
When did you meet Cornel West?
When the first presidential debate that was down here, we went to the first night Bernie wasn't debating. He was the second night, but the first night his people and his team were all over at this place in Wynwood. And we went over there and Nina was there and Dr. West was there. And I've told the story. It's really kind of, I hope the truth is, fortunately for me, I'm sure he'll never remember me, but like I walked, first of all, I was sweaty and disgusting. Okay. Because we'd been outside in Florida all day. And I walk into this place and there he is, the full suit, the vest. He's got the pocket watch thing going on, like the whole thing with the cuffs. And I walked up to him and I was like all I could say was big fan. And then I had this girl take our picture. It was a blurry picture. It sucked so bad. And then he left. And then she asked me, who was that?
Oh my God.
And I was just like, I was an idiot. I was an idiot.
Well,
I don't know that I can.
You may get another chance.
I don't
you
think
never
I
know.
can face him again.
I think of all the people that have been surrogates for her. Yeah. Well, listen, she's been, Dr. West has been great. I know Danny Glover is there.
Oh yeah.
People really want her to win and they really know, they can sense, like, as we've said, I believe that Nina is the heir, if you will, in terms of leadership to Bernie's movement. I think that, it is a not me, us movement, but there's always, there's always somebody who rises to the top, and there's no question that it's her. And knock on wood, everything will go well tomorrow. And again, as much as canvassing is important, and we're not going to keep you guys long because you got to get a good night's sleep. Working those
I'm
polls,
sure they'll do that.
Yeah, well, they will. Or they'll just pull an all-nighter. It doesn't really matter.
Haven't you been to the frat house?
But the polls open, I believe, at 6:30 or 7 a.m. And so the importance of...
Well, we're working the night shift, apparently.
Well, the afternoon and night shift.
The afternoon and evening shift.
And so what's going to happen, in my opinion, as you guys have seen on the ground already, if you think that Brown's campaign has been nefarious to this point, you wait until people are getting out at the polls tomorrow and the type of stuff they're going to pull in every precinct.
Look at Debbie was friggin' shoving Martina like a crazy person in a race that wasn't anywhere near this competitive.
Yeah, if Debbie, listen, if Jen had run against Debbie again and was considered to be the favorite to win, I can't even imagine the type of tactics that they would employ to maintain their power. And in this instance,
they're scared.
Yeah, I think they are. So you guys,
desperate. It's actually kind of a little bit of a dangerous thing.
Yeah, and I really think
they're not so bright.
That's true. But I also think this is the most important part of the election right now. As much as canvassing and phone banking and text banking, all of that matters so very, very much. But at the end of the day, what happens tomorrow is what will decide the election, because they are going to try things.
Well,
there is no question.
What's their mail-in situation? Like for us, for example, mail-ins is huge and has always been huge.
So
it kind of, so there's certain states that you do have a better idea of where it's going based on mail-ins and stuff like that. But I don't know. Now, generally, the demographic that we're talking about tend to be in-person voters. From what we have here.
Yeah.
From what we see, that's where you see souls to the polls and those types of movements. You generally see
Sabian, as you know, in the Black community, going to the polling station is a tradition. It's done at a lot of different times. Obviously,
I don't know how you know he knows that. Maybe he was raised by white people.
Whatever.
I don't know how you know he knows that.
Okay, so now I've overstepped my bounds and I'm being assuming, and I shouldn't be.
I don't know.
And you're being woke. You're trying to start trouble.
I'm not trying to be woke. I'm just saying I don't know where he grew up. I don't know.
Okay, so assuming that souls to the polls is a very big deal down here, but going and voting in person tends to be a very big deal. And I would assume, maybe I'm wrong, but I would assume that there will be a lot of people voting in person tomorrow.
I would think so.
Would you say that that's a safe assumption?
Yes, definitely.
They're expecting a low voter turnout for this election. I mean, that's what they said at the Nina HQ. I mean, you can like safely assume that, considering that it's a special election and it's the primaries. But yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say a lot of people are going to be voting in person tomorrow.
Yes.
And not only that, but the fact that, you know, Representative Fudge was in that seat for a very long time and was never challenged. So most people are not generally voting in a primary. This is a rare circumstance. So the
right, it's hard enough to get people to vote in a regular primary
that they're expecting to vote in,
right, that they know is a but a special one is definitely a taller order to get voter turnout. But what's in her favor is massive amounts of name recognition.
Yes,
so it's not like some unknown race. So I mean, it's kind of like it's a trade-off in terms of how many people will come out, I think.
Well, in terms of how many you can get out to the polls, again, as you said, you know, that's definitely going to be a very important part of this process. And, you know, we're certainly hopeful that we do make a difference, especially if the race is close. I mean, I know the polls say 7 points. Who knows how accurate that really is? You know, a lot of people suggest that the polls are very skewed in a lot of ways.
I think they are skewed, and I think they're skewed to create that sort of, you know, where people want to support who they perceive as the winner. When you put the doubt out there that the person that they support doesn't have a chance, people are less likely to come out and vote. This is a known tactic that they do.
Yes.
So I don't trust those numbers. I don't.
I agree. And I also think the one thing you could do, well, again, that was an internal poll that Brown's campaign had done.
Oh, yeah.
And what
I'll believe that.
And one thing you guys would probably notice, especially since you said that all the enthusiasm on the ground seems to be with Nina. And so that's obviously a great sign, especially in a local election. And with that said, you know, it was perceived that Nina had, let's say, a 30-point lead, 35-point lead. And the next thing you know, this internal poll comes out, oh, it's a 7-point lead. And you do that because you want all the super PAC money to flood into the race, thinking, oh, well, now we got a shot, so we might as well do it.
So they did, right. It's dual purpose. It's fundraising and to be defeatist, and to be defeatist to the other side.
Correct.
You know, because they have nothing else. That's they have nothing else. I think it's a sign of desperation. And the question is, what kind of filthy stuff does their supervisor of elections participate in?
Well, that's why having as many people working at the polls.
Our filthy. We don't know other people's filthy.
Well, that's why working the polls tomorrow is going to be so very important. Just making sure that, you know, it's silly, but if you see something, say something. But it's
not
true.
Unless you're what's his name, and then you get arrested and you get put in jail for 4 years.
Well,
Daniel Hale. Yeah. See something, say something, then you go away.
Have you guys seen Jordan Chariton in Status Quo?
No, we have not.
You know, Cleveland's a big city.
It is. It is. Okay, so I'm going to pass, Eli, I'm going to text you Jordan's info. But if you see anything while you guys are at the polls in the morning.
Anything that looks weird, like something that just doesn't look right, or somebody's harassing somebody, or somebody, whatever it is.
Electioneering. You know, there's rules about how close you can get to the polling station. If you see stuff,
notify an actual journalist.
Let them know that this is stuff that, because we know Nina's campaign is not going to do that.
And we know that Jordan's there on the ground. So.
Correct. So independent journalists will be covering it. And certainly Jordan is somebody who he really wants to make sure that everything is on the level tomorrow. That is very important to him. And again, guys, we can't thank you enough for being there.
Pablo, you haven't said anything. You've been very, very quiet.
He's generally quiet.
He is quiet. But also, where's my friend Carlos?
Carlos is on a plane back home. Yeah.
Okay. He's just there for the hard work, and then people like me get to come in at the last minute and be there for the party.
Well, Carlos.
Poor Carlos. Are you all good, Pablo? Is it all good?
Yeah. We're actually very excited for this election.
Yeah.
Well, with you guys pitching in as much as you have, I have no doubt it's gonna.
You're so cute. I was saying, like, I know you guys aren't kids, but to me, you're kind of kids.
And by the way, when we all get back to Florida, there is a very important election down here that I think you're going to want to get involved in.
We really need to get behind Sheila. We need to get behind Sheila Sharfelis McCormick for Alcee seat. We really do, and that's starting to turn into an ugly bloodbath. And
I thought that she was a great candidate to begin with, but between her and Amari Hardy, Sheila has the financial resources.
Their election is in November
to win this election.
What's the date?
I think it's like November 2nd or something.
It's like early November, and it's that's that special election for Alcee seat, and that's really the next big thing. But also, we are going to be working on a general strike that we're going to be putting together an action for the general strike day, which is October 15th.
Yep.
And it's a national day that they're going to be doing walkouts in places. Obviously, Florida's right to work. We're kind of limited in terms of what we can do, but we're definitely going to put an action together. We definitely are going to have labor involved. And
we're getting the band back together.
So October 15th is a really big thing that we're putting something together for. So just keep.
And if you're looking for, the next important race in canvassing and all that good stuff, we've definitely got one here. And the district goes all the way down to Miramar, so
like,
it's not that far from where you guys are.
Imagine having a friend of ours. Imagine having a friend of ours who supports all the things we support in Congress here. Because that covers Alcie's district. So that's Miramar, that's parts of Fort Lauderdale, and that's West Palm and like it's ridiculously
weirdly shaped district.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
dude, Nina's, it's like half of Cleveland and half of Akron.
it's all her demographic.
Yeah.
But guys, if we can get Sheila into it, would be
one
huge
step
down
at
here.
one step at a time.
But that would be a local, like, it would be unprecedented.
In terms of local impact, and if you really want to see run
It's
again,
not happening yet.
I'm just saying
we need to get our ducks in a row. We
do.
need to play the long game, and we need to be strategy. And one of those strategies is putting certain people in office, and also working
that are
with
not
labor.
going to be working against her.
Correct.
Or against
right.
the
We
movement.
don't right.
So that's important. And again, I thought that she was a great candidate to begin with, but the fact that she has the most,
she has money now.
She has the most money in the race, which just goes to show you, when you guys check out the podcast, Tony Mann, who writes for the Sun Sentinel, finally addressed that she's actually running in this race.
He finally mentioned her,
and it was as slanderous and frankly misogynistic and, dare I say, even racist in the way that he wrote this. I highly recommend you check it out.
It's suspicious that how
could a black woman in her 40s possibly have this money? There must be something to it.
Right. Like, he put it out there like there's something suspect about that, but yet
he wasn't even nuanced about it. It was so blatant. I was like,
but
wow.
Then he doesn't ever question people like Debbie where they get their money. So he doesn't mention her obscene amount of money, but he's so surprised that this woman could have that money. Where could she have possibly gotten it from? I don't know, Anthony. Maybe because she's smart and has a smart running business and she's just successful.
Hell yeah. Well,
whatever.
That's what scares them. And I tell you, that would change a lot of the political infrastructure down here if she were to win.
So save some of your enthusiasm. We got more work here.
Let's get Nina over the finish line tomorrow.
See you guys tomorrow.
We will see you guys in the love that stuff. Love you guys.
I'm really only going for the t-shirt.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Well, I
want my Nina shirt.
I have one that got filthy yesterday.
I paid $40 for this.
I actually like the idea of having a hoodie.
The hoodie is nice.
Yeah. Well, look, if you live in we don't need that.
There you go.
But if you're in Cleveland and you don't offer hoodies, you're missing a very important opportunity from a merchandising
and frankly, even though it is the summer, I heard it's going to be, it's going to be brisk. It's not going to be that bad. It's going to be in the 70s. So it's, you
have been pussified, my friend. You have been pussified by the weather.
Freezing our asses off last night. It was so bad.
I don't get cold. I'm just saying.
You were cold?
I'm like.
How cold is it, Sam? How cold is it there?
Oh, what is it now? It's probably like 70.
Oh, Sam.
Speak for me.
All right, you guys are sad. These are sad Floridians, people.
Oh, Lord.
These are sad little Miamians just sitting there all up in Cleveland in the summer, mind you.
It's 68.
Sam, I keep my house at 68. You've braved it before.
No.
Oh, Lord. Well, we thank you guys.
All right, we'll see
one
you
more
guys
time.
tomorrow.
Eli, Pablo, Sabian, and Sam, thank you guys so much for coming on this evening. We'll see you tomorrow.
And look, now we have Sabian. We have a new volunteer.
We definitely do. All right, guys. Have a great evening. I mean, what can you say? We've always had a great group. We've always had a great group. Tremendous group.
But
really great group.
You know why? Because we have the young people. When you have the young people, that's where the movement is. When you're old and your ideas are old and
they just cast them out
age-wise, by the way. I mean
old
in
in
terms of
thoughts.
sitting there just sitting there for so long, just dated. It's like when you're sitting in that position for so long, you're not getting the young people. Nobody's coming out of high school and getting raring to go for somebody that's established.
How do you feel about being the cool aunt? Is that something that you would be okay with?
America needs its cool aunt. I guess so. I guess it's a whole hell of a lot better than a grandmother.
That's a very fair
I
point.
could be an aunt. I mean, look, I am. So it's not like I'm not a mom. I am two people's mother. Two people actually have to deal with this as a parent. I can't say this. Is what I say. I'm not the best mom in the world,
but you're not
I'm
worst.
not the worst. And let me tell you something. And every time I say that, my husband's like, yeah, you know, Andrea Yates, Susan Smith, Casey Anthony. And I'm like, I'm doing all right then. I feel like I'm really great.
So we'll do the best we can to get you guys some live footage tomorrow. Just make sure you tune in.
Yeah.
Again,
we'll
keep you
on
posted
tomorrow, like when we're like whenever we think it's fun. If you know, if there's a good opportunity, whenever we see one, we'll come on and just say.
What do you like? Or do you like that one, Jen, from Ian Crone? Do you think
I don't know. That sort of makes me sound a little Pelosi-ish. And here's the thing.
Better if you are than Pelosi.
Okay, I would be okay with being Mama Bear if she was Grandmama Bear because she is way older than me. So the idea of being like, I'm between her and Alex. Like I'm old enough to be Alex's mom, but Nancy's old enough to be my mom. So, you know, I just feel like I'm in the middle.
We hope you guys have enjoyed this short notice program this evening. I think we
really
did pretty good.
This out of our asses today.
We really did. But you know what? And we're finishing early, which is even better because we do need to get to sleep very soon. So we will be up early. We will be in. Yeah.
I didn't eat dinner.
Well, you got to eat something.
Me.
Well,
you didn't feed me.
I'll find something for you. And
bye, Keith.
Sorry, Keith, you're not getting any. We're not diving deep, baby.
What was heartbreaking?
He thinks that we got to talk about there's like.
What was
the vaccine passports or something like that, and it's like, you know, enough already.
We can't.
It's
honestly, that unfortunately, I have enough third rails that I'm going to end up having to die on. That I can't. That's just not one I'm willing to take on. I'm not anti. I'm just. It's just.
Get your vaccine.
Honestly,
don't worry about what people who don't want to choose to do.
Seriously.
Take care of yourself. That's the most important thing you can do.
I'm not anti-vax.
You can always say, I got my vaccine. I hope you would get yours. Not, you better get yours.
Yeah,
that's not going to work.
My problem is anybody who knows me knows I am very, very strong about things that are civil liberties. I am
100%.
very, very suspect, probably over suspect of things that look like they tend to infringe on that. I always will be safe rather than sorry in favor of civil liberties, always. And so as unpopular as that often is. And so this is one of those times. So I am opting to not really get involved in the vax discussion. It's just not something that I'm wanting to really get involved in. I think if people want vax, go get vaxxed. I think it's a great thing to do. I think that there's people that, you know, for whatever their reasons, they just don't. Shaming doesn't work. And it's not a hill I'm dying on, guys. I've got my own issues. I'm a self-loathing Jew in South Florida that has to tackle the Israel issues. All right. I got enough of my own battles to fight.
On that note, Michael Merenstein will close the show tonight. I have to fight for my freedom
I agree. And well, here's the thing. It depends on how you look without pants.
That's fair. Guys, Thursday night. What do we got Thursday night? Medea Benjamin.
Oh, Thursday night we have Medea Benjamin. And we also have Mark Charles, who is a Native American activist, Navajo Nation. He
ran for president
in 2020, which I didn't even know.
No.
And is someone who is very active in Indigenous and First Peoples rights. And so that, again, back to my civil liberties thing. So yeah, and we're going to have Medea on first on Thursday, and we're going to talk all things Cuba. We'll throw in a little Peru and Venezuela. But Medea is our go-to on that. So that's our plan. So we got 2 good guests on Thursday, guys.
We really appreciate you checking in as always, guys. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, share.
Yes, wear
comment,
a damn mask.
Do whatever you can.
I agree.
Yes, wear a damn
honestly,
mask.
That's the only policy that is science.
It is a pain in the ass, but you know what?
Here's the thing. I hate
Don't be selfish.
Don't be selfish. I hate it. And so I often choose to just not go places. That's my choice. I choose to not go because I don't want to wear a mask. That's just me. I don't want to. However, I do because it's courteous to other people, and I don't mind doing it for other people. I just don't like it, and so I just don't go a lot of places. But like my husband says, I'm 80% hermit, so I'm not someone that is really interfering with the immunity process.
And again, There is nothing wrong. I think that the argument here is whether or not there is financial motivation in order to ensure that people are taking this vaccine all the time. And that is an argument and a discussion worth having.
Yeah,
but
I'm
the
just-
people who think that you're getting injected with microchips into your arm,
people.
that's when you're
That's being
jumping.
paranoid.
That's when you're jumping the shark.
It is.
And so as far as I'm concerned, we'll have this discussion another time. But as we say, wear a mask, get vaccinated. Do not worry about what the next person does.
Exactly.
Worry about yourself.
Mind your
That's what you got to
business.
do. So thank you so much. Have a great night.
See you guys Thursday.
See you in Cleveland. We'll see you in Cleveland.
Oh, well, we'll see you in Cleveland. But
Cleveland
Thursday.
rocks.
Cleveland.
Good night, guys.